Kind of went nuts for a couple of weeks out in my workshop, or maybe I went sane, I don't really know. But this corner rotted underneath the stairs, and the stairs were rotted. And then my neighbor's foot went through it when he was trying to help me move some stuff. It was built as an outside stairway, and I put this sheet metal up the slope and on the top, and never really planned for it to be waterproof, so it was kind of the worst case where there was always a little water but not a lot of water. Anyway, it got rotten. I replaced it. I pulled this old air compressor out. Got to get rid of it. So now I have nice new treated boards on my steps, which were treated before, but they lasted about 12 years and they kind of went to hell. So I don't know, it got me in the rhythm. So I went inside the shop and I took down this rack that I had made to store the fiberglass cloths when I was doing the center console boat. It's been there ever since. And then I threw away and burnt a lot of wood, so now I have this nice wall. I operated on my old miter saw, which has had a hard life. I kind of abused this thing. I cut metal with it and all kind of crappy wood, and it's had some explosions where wood has gotten jammed in there. But anyway, I got it cut 90 degrees. I got the fence 90 degrees. Swinging the table, the 45 is accurate, but swinging the upper part, I can't get the 45 accurate, but I don't hardly ever use that feature. So got it back together and put it in place. So that was a huge improvement in the shop. Well, my old belt sander is back in business with some new belts and some new discs, which will never stay glued, but they kind of stay on there. And this thing has been not right for years, and I couldn't figure it out, but it's this contraption in there that does the tilt and the tension, and it was bent a little bit. And at first it was just bent a little bit where I had to play with it to make it work, and then it bent some more where the wheel was rubbing and I had to put a washer behind it. But the way the thing's shaped, it was not obvious it was bent. It's a casting and it's not linear. It's kind of got all kind of curves and stuff. And finally it bent so much that it just wouldn't work. And when I took it off, it was obvious it was bent. Not available anymore from Delta. This is an old saw, but I was able to get the Chinese knockoff and re-drill some holes and make it work. Other than that, the bandsaw is now in great shape. And in my planer, it was okay, but I switched all the little knives around. It has little square knives. It has like 100 of them, and you can rotate them up to 4 times. And so I rotated the ones that I could. Some of them were broken. I ordered some replacements, and of course they're not the same size. So when you run a board through here, you get lines in it, but easily sanded out. I probably should get one day a whole new set, because I think most of them have been rotated 4 times. My drill press needs nothing. I want to make a plywood storage rack for my wood shop. I've got one now, and it's okay. It's less than ideal. What I have now is an outside wall with a window in it, and I built a floor and I built a wall. Now I hang my clamps on this wall, and the plywood stands up in here. The problem is, or the weakness of this is, if you have 8 sheets of plywood and they all flop in this direction, it is really hard to get them back the other way if you want to get a sheet out from the middle. Because it's not like I have uniform sheets where I can just keep pulling off the end. All my sheets are different. So that's a problem. Another problem is the short sheets end up down here. They're hard to reach over the wall, and the end is closed, and they end up just kind of getting lost in there. And then the last thing is it's fixed, so I can't move it. If it's in the way, if I'm trying to joint a longboard, I can't roll it. The windows stay incredibly gross with cobwebs and stuff, and you can't really get to them to clean them. So what I want to build, let's erase this. I want to build, I'm going to use a 2x2 steel. I'm going to put casters. I'm going to put some sort of partition in the middle, and a partition here, and a partition here. And that way, even with the same amount of sheets, there'll only be half of them, half on one side and half on the other side. So I will be able to flop them over. 2, I can roll it around and clean under it. And 3, if I do it right, maybe I can make a separate compartment for cuts for pieces of sheets, because I have as many small sheets as I have full sheets. Yeah, so my existing rack, this is wood and this is wood, and over the years this is leaning over, and plus I have all my pipe clamps hanging on it, so it's about to break anyway, so it needs something. This one, I'm gonna make this steel and this steel and this steel and this steel, and then I'll just fill in with wood, so it should be stronger. I got a lot of steel, but I don't have a lot of matching steel. I got a lot of junk is what I have. I do have these two 2x2s that are long enough. I've got some 1x2s that could be verticals, and I have a few pieces of this 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch that Steve left here when I did his trailer. So weight's not that much of an issue. I just need to be able to get it out of the truck, but once it sits on the ground, I'm not gonna be picking it up. So we're gonna go heavy. It's easier for me to weld heavy stuff than try to mess with lightweight stuff. So I was shooting for 2 foot wide, and it's going to be about 1 inch less because that's what I was able to get out of these square tubes. And I was shooting for about 6.5 feet long, and I can get about 6 foot and a couple of inches using these rectangular tubes that were both cut matching length. So I'm going to weld this up. I want another one in the middle of some sorts. So it was all going well. I got the frame made and tacked together, and this is all new steel, although it's old. I mean, it's old and rusty, but it's never been used before, so it went together well. Until my cheap gene kicked in, and I decided not to use the nice square tubes I have, because I'm saving them for I don't know what. I'm gonna use these old crappy angles, and they're only gonna go up part of the way, but I figure I can bolt a 2x when I get home. And I got a lot of little pieces of angles out there, so I'm gonna put a set of 3 here, a set of 3 on each side, put the wheels on the bottom, and head home. First 3 verticals are done. I even controlled my crazy enough to get the holes drilled in here before I welded them. Much easier on a pillar drill than with a hand drill. Okay, it's been less than 2 hours and it's all welded. Almost got to turn over and weld the bottoms of these angles and weld the casters on. And then it's heading home and the rest is woodwork. I think this is gonna come out pretty good. So I pulled out some pecan and cut some boards to lay in the bottom. So this will be the structural part of the bottom. And I'm screwing them down with these wing tack screws, which are pretty quick, pretty cool. I have a drill bit on the bottom, which drills through the wood and through the steel. And it has these little wings on it right above the drill bit that drill a bigger hole through the wood so the screw doesn't bind up in the wood part. And then when those little wings get into the metal, they just break off. So this is a one-stop deal. You just put it on the drill, push real hard. It'll drill through the wood, through the steel, thread itself, and suck them up real tight. Cool beans. On my run this morning, I passed up a pile of this stuff on the side of the road, and I usually don't look twice at this pressboard stuff. It has so many bad features, or whatever you want to call it. However, it has one good feature: it's very slippery. So I'm going to use this to line the inside of the plywood compartment, so when I go to pull plywood in and out, it'll slide easier. I'm not using it for structural. I'm gonna just put this on top of the other boards. Center wall. I had a 2x10. I cut it a little bit less than 4 feet tall and ripped it into thirds. And got the 2 ends clamped with the little level and the middle one set with a straight edge. I got a little whop in my, I got a wobble. I don't know if it's the floor or my welding twisted. I guess when I get this loaded up with some plywood, it's gonna unwhop itself. Okay, so these fastenings need to be pretty secure because they'll have the weight of the leaning plywood on them. Let me go see what I got. So most of these panels I picked up this morning are 20 inches wide. So I'm gonna bust them down the middle and make 10-inch strips as to support the size of the plywood in storage. Okay, so the first side of the 4-foot middle divider is done. I went with 3 10-inch strips because that was efficient in the material I had, and I just put a little rip from the 2x10 top and bottom, and it should be fine. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this side, and these other walls will be a little shorter. So let's get this done. I think I have everything I need cut already. So we got another cobbled together creation from Barry Loop, but it's functional. It's ready to go. It's done. I rounded all the corners so it wouldn't be too sharp. I cut the corners off of the angle at the bottom because it was really sharp. I cut the bolts off. I used the white stuff I found on the side of the road this morning, and plus the original sheet of plywood that was on the side there. So it's really heavy. I don't know how these casters are going to hold up, but so far they do. So I'm going to offload all the plywood onto here and clean out this corner. I'm on a cleaning frenzy. So I'm starting to pull out my good 1/4 inch mahogany plywood and teak plywood, and you can see all these little pieces back here. They were there forever. I couldn't get to them. I couldn't reach them without unloading this whole thing, which I never have until now. But now I can reach over the top of this because it's low enough, and I can have better use of all these little pieces. Okay, the old rack is all gone, mostly broken because it was nailed together pretty well. I went ahead and put some storage back in the window. I was kind of mixed feelings about this because this stuff tends to just get hidden and stay, but I had the space. I had already blocked off the bottom of this window with plywood. In hindsight, I put way too many windows when I built this thing. But anyway, this thing is really heavy now, but it's really good. I can flip through and get to any sheet, any piece of sheet. Yeah, I'm gonna roll it into position. Pretty sure my casters are overwhelmed by the weight. You know, I used casters that I had, but it's pretty hard to roll and it's pretty hard to turn, which is unfortunate because I was thinking I'd pull this out all the time to clean and stuff. So I don't know, there may be some new casters in the future. Now I gotta figure out what to do with all my clamps. I don't know if I want them on the face of this thing again. Of course, before I started, I searched YouTube to get some ideas and stuff, and I noticed two things that I did not want to do. One, I didn't want to spend $400 to build a rack to hold $200 worth of plywood. You see that a lot. And two, I didn't want a one-sided rack where the plywood just leans against the back wall. That's fine if all your plywood is the same and you can keep pulling the top sheet off. But if you need to get to a sheet that's in the back, it's just about impossible with one of those. So when I get around to putting heavier, dutier casters on here, it'll be ideal for me.